Hello, boys. It is your boy KG82 Live, aka Tighten Up Your Pussy, aka your defending Yarsky champion, as you can see from my beautiful belt back here. I'm here with my co-host, as always, Jacob Biltino. Bilt, I see you're flying the W after last week. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty damn good. It felt good to get a win over you. Two top dogs going at it. It was a dog fight, but felt great.
Amen to that. And with that in mind, we have our two-time Sacco champion. Take it away. Oh, my God. Look at that.
Beauty.
Zach, how you doing, man?
I'm okay. Thanks for having me on. I wish it was better circumstances, but my team is just a below average team at this moment. So that's all I have for you right now. Happy to be on.
I guess, Curb was gonna let me have first question here, so that's where we're gonna go with it. Right now, I guess let me check your schedule quick too. Right now you're 5-5. All right, you're on the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
You starting to feel that Sacco sneaking up behind you? Are you feeling good, or how are you feeling right now about that?
You can't feel confident going 2 Saccos in a row, even in the middle of the pack right now, especially when Joel's kind of sneaking up there. I don't know. You start strong. Like my players, I was like, God damn, I'm number 1 in this league. Like I'm looking good, feeling good. Weeks 1, 2, and 3, hammering points. And then all of a sudden, like Chiefs, they just stopped running. I mean,
Lamar Jackson
Lamar's
70 every week.
Lamar's not scoring 70 every week. I don't know. And like the only production I have is Devontae Adams. So it's like, what do you do?
Or Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tyreek. Yeah.
Tyreek and Adams, they're my backbone.
Yep.
And they at least get me to 100, I guess. Some weeks.
The good news is for you, as of right now, you have the tiebreaker over Schultz. You only played him once, and then you beat Jared or Joel in your first matchup. So, so you're looking decent there.
One question I have for you, Sap, is you kind of referenced it. This is the second year in a row that you've kind of done with the 0 RB theory and just went back-to-back receivers. Is that something that you kind of foresee yourself doing more often because receivers are more consistent, or is that something that just kind of depends on where you fall?
I mean, it worked for what I have, right? I mean, Adams and Hill were they my first 2?
Yep.
I think they were. So, I mean, they're the backbone, and they've stayed my backbone the whole time. So I like it, but obviously my running back depth, I don't know. I could use some strength because obviously, I don't know. It's tough.
I actually had that as a note. That was a really good pickup by you to get Pacheco or whatever, because I saw that they talked about it, and I went to the waiver wire, and you were faster than Kirby is most times.
Well, and so the huge thing was my thing is I watch the games. Remember that in the past seasons, I was like, I watch the games.
That's really done well for you.
I know, I know how these players are doing. But what's his name? Pacheco. Yeah, he was his thighs are goddamn huge. He was running like an animal, and I was like, I have to pick him up because Reed's gonna use him, but they're not using him enough, and I think he's gonna come back into play. I think they're gonna get back to the run game. CEH is done, which he gave me some good production, but then I got Pacheco, so I think it's gonna go well there. They got to stop. Mahomes is throwing 60 attempts a game. You can't do that.
And that's the thing. I'm not sure. Maybe that is sustainable because that's what they've done all year and it's worked. I mean, the one interesting thing with Pacheco, because I know I've looked at him before, but the one thing with him, he gets all the running work, but if he doesn't score touchdowns, getting rushing yards can only take you so far if you're not catching passes out of the backfield. So that's the only reason I'm hesitant on him. But for the team that you had, I think that was a smart pickup because if at CEH, he's no longer a factor, Pacheco at least gives you a baseline.
Did you see who I snuck from you today?
Kadarius Toney. Everyone pretends like you snuck something from me. Remember, I've already seen it all, but I don't know who I would drop.
I don't know. I might sneak him in my lineup this week because I know Juju. I know he's struggling. He might have a concussion or whatever. I think Tony's going to go off.
I think that's a very good pickup, but my whole rationale is I don't have a player that I'm willing to drop because my team, I think, is good enough that I'm actually more so playing defense against other teams.
Yep.
And so I see players like Darren Waller on the free agency, and though he can't play the next 3 weeks, I'm scared Bilt's going to pick him up because that's where his team is weak. So
And
I'm
I
just
need him in
holding
the
on to
playoffs.
Waller and making sure that Built can't get him because Built's one of my bigger opponents. So
Do you want to
that's
talk
my
about
role.
that?
Is that a fat joke?
Do you want to talk about that with Waller? Like you snuck that because Joel dropped him, right?
Yeah.
Dropped him last week, and Built was one spot ahead of me in waivers. And I was like, I don't want Built to potentially have him for the playoffs. And I don't need him. I have Mark Andrew and Dalton Schultz, who are 2 of the top 5 tight ends. But it's all about playing defense against your opponents as well.
And the Raiders are going to figure it out again, I think. And they're going to start using Waller when he comes back. But I think it was a mistake by Joel by dropping him. But you can't drop a stud like that. Just keep him down in the lineup.
I think Joel's thing is like he just gets so pissed off at players. Like Waller's been shitty for him all year, and now he's on the IR. He's like, this is my last straw with him. Waller's been questionable for like the last 3 weeks, and Joel's had him in his lineup, and then just had to switch to a different tight end. So I get that because I have that same problem with Kyle Pitts right now, and I'm gonna keep running him out there though. I don't know. It probably won't work, but I'm gonna keep running him out there.
Does Joel keep Cup, or does he drop him?
He's kept him right now. He's asked me if I was willing to trick, because I remember in weeks past I was offering him
The Elder Wand.
absolutely, of course. I'm a Harry Potter nerd. I was offering him Debo Samuel and Ramondre Stevenson for Cooper Kupp.
Oh,
He said
shoot.
no, and I offered a big deal. Or no, it might have been Debo and Najee Harris. For
When he got hurt or earlier?
Before he got hurt. Before post
gotcha.
offer, I was potentially willing to offer him Debo for Cooper Kupp straight up, but I'm seeing the injuries. I'm just like, I think he's done for the year the way the Rams are playing. What do you think, Sap?
Do you want to give me Debo?
I don't want to give you anybody. I would love to. I intentionally look for trades on people I don't think I have to compete against. So I don't look at you very much as a trade target because I don't want to play against Debo in the playoffs.
Yeah, because he's due.
Yep, I know, but that's all part of the deals. But it's fun having a loaded team, but it also makes stressful decisions, like sitting CD Lamb last week when he goes off for 34. So that was a shot in the heart. That's for damn sure.
We were talking about that. It's like that's what kind of sucks when you have like good guys on your bench is you actually have to make decisions. In 95% of the time, you're wrong.
I had that the first 3 weeks. It was fun. It was a fun situation.
Going ahead here, quick Sap. So looking at your upcoming schedule, it's
weak.
Pretty easy. Pretty easy.
And
you got three of the bottom 4 teams.
Right. I've checked it out.
Me. So yeah, you got Luddy, Joel, me, Axman.
Well,
that's
Joel's
feel good.
Joel's a 2-game swing either way though. So that's tough,
That's true, yeah. That's gotta feel good though. Seeing Luddy and Axman on there.
And I got Jared though. I mean, that's probably been the toughest part is just like soaking it in that Jared is good. What I wanted to bring up, Jared, he's good this year, but it's like, who's teaching his students? He's always on the waiver. He's always making trades. I'm more concerned about who is teaching his students history at this moment.
He sends me the most texts of everybody in the league. Like, so what are you thinking about this trade? Or what do you think about this? And I'm just like, how are you responding so quickly? I thought you had kids you're teaching. And
he was hitting up the waiver at 10 a.m. today again.
And then like Deion Jackson, I picked him up and he's like, oh, sorry, Bill, I can't be on my computer all the time. I'm like, you're the one that initiated this conversation.
He probably just gives him packets and he's like, I'll be at my computer.
If any of you guys know anything about, he probably has some really smart kid in fantasy football in his class, and that kid's doing everything when he comes to that 10 a.m.
Oh, I guarantee it.
I mean, it's worked out well for him. I mean, picking up Jeff Wilson out of nowhere, where a lot of people thought he was dead in the water after the 49ers trade for McCaffrey, but got blessed. He got traded to the Dolphins, and now, damn, he's a real competitor.
Yeah, he's playing well for him.
Yeah, and he's still trading too. Like we thought that's the part that affected him, but he's still making trades. So,
and it's worked out well. I mean, obviously Zach Ertz getting hurt and tearing his ACL this last week really hurts. But before then, he had a top 4 tight end, and he got Jalen Waddle, a top 10 receiver. And he gave away Mark Andrews, but he got a lot better receivers out of the deal. So I would say that was a pretty fair trade all in when people were knocking for him at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And it turned out fine for him.
And when he drops 140 points on me, it's like, I'll just sit down, score as many points as you want. I'll come back next week. That's fine. Take it away, Jared.
Is Jared just poaching all of Joel's running backs? First he gets Etney or whatever. And then
is he bullying him?
And then Joel drops Jeff Wilson Jr. and Jared picks him up right away.
He's just got his drops on alert.
Let's see who's Joel got on his team. What running back is Joel going to drop next for Jared to pick up?
I know, that's always a little interesting. Well, Seb, I also have one other question. I know most times that we talk to people, they always say you're the one person they want to beat. So now you finally have the floor. Who do you enjoy beating the most, or is there someone that you wake up a little bit earlier to check the waiver wire for when you know you're playing them this week?
Oh boy. I mean, this year, my big one was Josh, obviously, because he was going on his stretch of losing, so I had to get that.
Oh.
What else? I'd love to beat Jared, but he's in an upper league, so I can't do that anymore. I mean, it's nice to go against you and hopefully pull off a win, but I'm just a below average team at this moment. We're growing.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. You know, it's all about growth. And Sap, we're talking about you potentially being a 2-time Sacco winner to making the playoffs, which is a pretty big jump right there. So that's something to look forward to. It's something to build on in the years to come. But right now, you just need to take advantage of the last 4 games that you got and make yourself into the playoffs.
Yeah, and with the shit talking and stuff, obviously anybody that feeds into it, like Bill, like I'm gonna come after you. So below average team or not, it's a week by week basis, and it's on, buddy.
Oh yeah, that's the whole point of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Amen to that. Amen to that. But with that in mind, do you got any questions for all of us before we kind of just go for the rest of it, my man? I mean, we'll open it up to you if you want to spread the floor, send a message to the rest of the league. I mean, you're already sending a message to Pooty by wearing a Ray Rice jersey, knowing how much he likes players that beat women.
No, Pooty is a surprise. I mean, he's the worst because he's quiet and he just stays at the top. But I don't know. You can't say much because he won't talk shit. So Pooty's just up there quietly, and he'll sneak into the playoffs like he always does. But one thing I wanted to point out was Luddy and we didn't hit up the waivers at all this morning, besides when I took Tony from you. So Luddy and I mean, we're feeling confident about our teams going into this week. So we'll see. Maybe he just doesn't care, but that's fine. That's fine. Give me the easy dubs, Luddy.
Oh, Jesus Lord. That's always interesting. Yeah, I mean, looking at Luddy's team, he's really been hurt by Herbert just not being the same this year. And
also, don't text him. Like when the podcast is out, don't let him know that he has 3 buys currently on his roster.
Yeah, no, I have that written down here for when we get to your game.
Well, right now.
Oh, shit. He switched it.
Oh, yeah. He knows what he's doing.
Damn it.
He's wheeling and dealing. He's still focused. He's got to avoid that ball sack trophy. Otherwise, Jax is going to be wondering what daddy's got in his office. Shit, but with that in mind, Bill, anything else for Sapper? Do we want to kind of touch base on some of last week's and then power rankings next week?
It's not really anything much. It's just I'm jealous that you have TJ Hawkinson now. He plays for the Vikings, but that's about it. I mean, he's
not too productive with TDs though.
Well, yeah, but I mean, when you get 9 receptions out of him, it's all right.
Yeah.
So, but no, that's all I had. Otherwise.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, you know what? It's been a couple of weeks since we've jumped on, and I haven't won a game in 2 freaking weeks, so I need to change that shit. But what's going on with last week's matchups, Bill Tino? Any ones that catch your mind in particular?
I mean, we can kind of just gloss over all of them. So ours to start with, just kind of on my side of things, I'll let you talk about your side of things. Like, I don't know if I found a really good quarterback in Justin Fields or what's going on, but at this point, I can't bench him. Mm-hmm. And then Justin Jefferson just doing Justin Jefferson things. That's what led me to the win there. It was kind of the slugfest that we thought it was going to be. Obviously, your Monday Night Football kind of hurts you, or they didn't really produce at the end. But at the beginning of that game, you were kind of projected 135. So until they didn't produce the rest of the game, you were still right there. So that's kind of what my perspective was on it. Just I had my 2 guys go off again, and I don't know. Yeah, if Justin Fields keeps on doing this, I could have something. But what do you think?
Does Brown scare you a little bit with your 1 reception?
Oh my God, absolutely not. So looking at just I watched, it's like Shane, I actually watched the games, and I actually want to make a huge deal about that, guys. I watch football games, so
that's huge.
I don't care about box score. But no, not worried at all, because looking at the number of plays each team ran, Washington just ran the shit out of the ball, which I don't think is going to happen every game against the Eagles. time of possession was super low, and the Eagles are one of the best teams in the NFL. So
I don't
they'll
know.
make it right, and I'm not worried.
It opened it up. People know how to play Philly.
I mean, people say that, but I don't believe it.
That is sweet.
Every team, there's a reason no team has ever gone the whole season undefeated. So yes, they beat them once. We'll see if it happens in the future, but not too worried. My team got hit by a buzzsaw, and you're going to lose some of these games. So I'm going to turn my focus to Roscoe's team next week and see if I can get the W. But the one matchup I saw last week was huge. Was Josh pulling off the upset over Joel when Joel really needs a win. I mean, when you're playing Axon, no offense to Axon Luddy, but when you're playing those two teams, you need to get a W, and especially for Joel because he was tied for a playoff spot. So that was a very tough loss for him. And kudos to Axe when he traded for Foreman and got rid of Debo. Foreman's been an absolute beast for him in 2 of the 3 weeks that he's got him. So that's worked out pretty well for Axe, and he's headed for the Sacco, but right now he's just trying to focus on getting a few wins and getting the best team for week 16 and 17.
He's helping me out.
Amen to that. And the one thing that's knocking on Joel, obviously, is Cooper Kupp's now out for the rest of the year, and that was his 1 star. So that injury, I think and I don't know where the power rankings are going to go, but I think Joel is a long shot, and the playoffs might be pretty close to set, but we still got 4 weeks to go. So we'll see what
I stopped at his house on Saturday.
What's that?
And he was pissed. I crawl all the way back out of the hole just to fucking lose to Axman this week. And I was like, dude, the games haven't even gone on Sunday yet. Like, what are you talking about? So I think he was just kind of bracing himself for what could happen. And I mean, Josh only put up 88, so Joel had a chance to win. It wasn't like, when Kyler got his first win and he scored like 150 on Josh, it was, it was there for the taking and just didn't happen.
Hang on here. So I've got the tiebreaker on Joel.
Yeah.
Until we play.
Yeah,
but then
play again. And
but
then they'll go to points scored.
Okay. Which I've
where
got.
You had a sizable lead. You had a 3rd most points scored. So you're looking good there.
I needed to be on this to understand playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only been the same every single year the past, 6 years, so it's a good thing.
This is easy to understand.
Yes, that is true. Some things stay true forever. But then the other matchup I thought was obviously pretty big, was Sapp and Jared's matchup. I don't know, Sapp, if you want to jump into it all, or it's pretty much you just ran into a buzzsaw. There's not much you can do about it.
I'd rather not.
I respect that.
I actually have something on that. Curb, we need to talk about this. I think we kind of talked about it the other day or on Saturday when we were at Curbs. I need to issue an apology to Jared. Whatever, like 4 or 5 weeks ago when we had that one podcast, we said which team isn't making the playoffs and why is it Jared? Since then he's won 5 in a row, so maybe we just need to talk some shit. So hand up, Jared. You won 5 in a row. Good for you. Welcome back to the conversation of getting a bye now. I mean, if I lose, he wins. He's got the bye. So
I know. And in our defense, the premise of that question though is if someone in the top 6 doesn't make the playoffs, who is it going to be and why is it Jared? Those 6 teams are still projected to make the playoffs. So I stand by my previous statement.
Yeah.
As long as we cash that part correctly.
Then the other one I kind of wanted to touch on quick, which obviously we just kind of glossed over all of them, but was Schultes and Ross. That was a big one. If Ross would have won that, we would have had 3, 4, and 6 teams in. So Schultes would have been 4 and 6, Ross would have been 4 and 6, and Joel would have been 4 and 6. Did I say that right? Joel, JLS, and Ross all would have been 4 and 6. Yep. Had Ross beat him. So that was big for the standings, and Ross's team laid an egg.
Yep. And then all I gotta say is for JLS's team is welcome back James Conner. Finally comes back. It's 2 touchdown games. So
and they dropped Benjamin. That was wild.
Yeah, so that's
he's been playing well.
And in typical fashion for JLS's team, Gabe Davis gets a touchdown and then he wins. I mean, that stack is as dangerous can be, and if he can make the playoffs and start those 2, he can beat absolutely anybody because Gabe Davis will go for 202 touchdowns any game. Yeah. So most dangerous stack in the league, I think, right there. So kudos to him, and it makes for a dangerous playoff opponent.
Anything on that one, Sat?
I mean,
do you think Ross was phased by having to look at your butt multiple times last week?
Yeah, I think it affected his gameplay. that's going to affect anybody. So that's tough. But on Schultz's next week, though, with Bills and their 1 to 2 feet of snow, I don't see him having a good week.
Ooh, who does he got next week?
He has Pooty.
So you got to yeah. So Pootie's got a nice one there.
Fuck, I want Pooty to lose, but with that,
And then last,
do we need to jump into the power rankings? And Sap, I know in years past you've done power rankings. Are we going to get any from you, or you're just going to observe and talk shit about Bills?
Yeah, I've got them.
Oh, hell yes, that's what I like to hear.
You want me to go my 10 through 6, and then Sap can give his 10 through 6?
Yes, so we're going to go right here. Week 11 power rankings on the screen. We'll go Bill Tino right here, and we'll just do Sap right next to him.
Okay. At the 10 spot.
So you're going 10 through 7 here, Bill.
Oh, 7 first?
No, so 10 through 7. So you're going to give off 4.
10,
so
at the 10 spot. At the 10 spot, I got Kyler. 1 and 9. You know, I thought his team was going to turn around. They just haven't. So that's pretty obvious. At 9, I have Ross.
Ooh.
Kind of keeping him where he's been at. He's scored under 72 of the last 4 weeks. His team is tough right now. He just needs to find it, pull it together. He's lost 4 of his last 5. At the 8 spot, I have Joel.
Wow.
And then, well, I mean, Joel's moving forward. He doesn't have Cup anymore. And that was his team, not his team, but that was a lot of it. Yep. Then at 7, I have Axman. I think he's won 2 of the last 3 weeks or something like that now. Somewhere in there. His team's playing better. He kind of figured out his quarterback out with Gino. So
Gino's a nice add-on.
Yep. So I think Axman figured that out a little bit. And that's where I'm at for 10 through 7. What do you got,
Sapper? Let's bring it home. Let's start at the 10 spot for you.
10 spot. I mean, he's not going to like this, but his team's only gone downhill. And I think with Cooper Kupp's injury, it's going to hurt him even more. So I have to put Joel at the 10 spot.
Like that.
He's not going to like it. That's fine. But it's your current spot right now. How's your team sitting? I have to put him at the 10 spot.
Mm-hmm. This league right here, that content's going to be amazing.
Then, I mean, Luddy follows up in 9. And then I think Josh and Ross honestly can go back and forth. But I'm going to move Josh ahead into the 7 spot. So it's going to go Ross, then Josh. Because having Henry on your team as your anchor is you could go off every single week.
Mm-hmm.
I think that easily owns you the 7 spot. And then we're not into 6 yet, but that's my 10 through 7.
Yeah, I think what's surprising to me is I think I agree with having Joel lower. If it was me, I think I would have him at the 9 slot just because of the number of wins he has. But his team is really hurting right now between Cooper Kupp being injured, Keenan Allen. Who knows if he never plays this week, but when he comes back, he might re-aggravate easily. Yep. And then the other problem for his squad is Leonard Fournette. He's potentially no longer going to be the starter with how good Rachaad White's looked. So
they said he's going to start.
And so that's potentially not lining up for him very well. It's why I feel confident the top 6 right now are going to be the 6 that make the playoffs. And Joel, despite having 4 wins, could be a solid contender for that last place trophy. So I think I have it Kyler, then Joel, and then I think I put Ross and Josh. So I think I'm pretty close to the same as what Sap has. Ross's team, I just worry those Lions running backs are going to eat into each other and it's not going to be that great. So
yeah, you can't choose every single week and you just have to throw them in your lineup.
Mm-hmm. And so that's always
one quick thought here.
But Bill Tino, let's get for you, or go ahead before you jump into the next thing.
Not to cry about Joel's name change again. Wah.
He's got to change it though, right?
Isn't it ironic though that Joel changes his name to something like Jared, and then Cooper Kupp gets hurt? I mean,
that's just
anyway. On to my 6 through 4 here now. We've got JLS at 6. I've thought about putting him higher. Like you said, he's got that Josh Allen stack with Gabe Davis. He has Travis Kelce. But watching the Niners last week, it looks like they want to keep McCaffrey healthy for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're like, hey, we're going to use him when we have to. And I mean, Elijah Mitchell's not a bad backup. So I think that's going to take away from McCaffrey just a little bit because they want him for the playoffs. So, and he hasn't been playing great as of late. So I have him down there at 6. At 5. So these two I could have flip-flopped. I actually did have them flip-flopped. I crossed it out and switched them around. At 5, I have Sapp.
Yep.
The reason I put Sapp at 5 is because he has the most points scored against him in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those deals where if he had a couple different weeks where he's not playing, highest scoring team, which the one week he beat me and I had the second highest points, but
still hurts, doesn't it?
He could be up there higher. I mean, you could be 7-3 or 6-4 at least right now, Sapp. So I have you at 5, and then I have Pooty at 4.
All right, Sapper, what do you got for your 6 through 4 slot?
No shot in my head of Schultes though. Schultes team, they're better. He's better than me. So I'm coming in at 6, Schultes at 5, and then I have Pooty at 4.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think Pooty in the 4 slot is pretty cut and dry. I have a tough one between Sapp and Schultes, but I think I'm going to give the slightest of edges to Schultes just because of the fact he's got Travis Kelce. And Travis Kelce can be a cheat code. Josh Allen is
Allen's a cheat code too.
And so having those two guys, I also think where Schultes' weakness is his RB2, but Sapp unfortunately doesn't have the strongest RB2 as well. And so I think I give the tie to Schultes there in terms of the favorite. So overall, I mean, the teams are pretty solid. Sapp, you got a pretty decent team. It's just trying to find that second running back in your flex on your team. And Schultes, I think he's good. Weeks Gabe Davis goes off. When he doesn't, he'll struggle.
Second running back, and if Lamar Jackson finds anything like he had those first few weeks, he's just as good as Josh Allen, because I mean he's more of a rushing touchdown threat than Allen is. So
well, and that's annoying because David Montgomery, he went off, he started going off, which I'm sure Curb, you'll have some insight being a Cyclone guy, but I mean he looked so good, and then they just stopped using him. They started just using Herbert a little more, but Montgomery's the starter.
Herbert's on IR now,
which is good. But then I see a lot of comments. They're like, maybe we should go to the 3rd string instead of David Montgomery.
They won't go quite that far. It'll be a lion's share of David Montgomery. But the problem is that Justin Fields pretty much has become the RB1 on that team. And so
you can't.
Montgomery's going to have better days.
Fields has the 5th most rushing yards in the NFL right now.
Yeah. It's
after his last couple games.
And the one thing, just because we haven't talked about him yet, but we still in the 4 slot, Pooty's team, overall, I like it. And he's potentially a sleeping giant with Jamar Chase potentially coming back, not this week, but the next. So,
well, and he has, we'll see how good he is when he comes back, but he's got Deshaun Watson to help with his quarterback problems.
Yep. And so I know the one thing he's worried about with his team is the wide receiver too. And he's been inquiring about trying to make moves for that because he's not as confident in players like Michael Pittman, Olave, or Devontae Smith, but he's got a decent chance if you can just pick the right one. One of those 3 will go off. It's just going to come down to can he figure out the right one each week.
Can we talk about Pooty having 3 quarterbacks on his team?
I don't hate it, considering Tom Brady's on a bye and Deshaun Watson is currently suspended. So he wants to be known as the handsome guy. He gets Jimmy Handsome on his team, and so that's what alpha males do. They just surround themselves with other people, good-looking people. But with that in mind, let's jump into the top 3, Bill Tino, which I'm a little curious because I've been at the top for multiple weeks, but I'm on a 2-game losing streak, so my time might be done.
I did it. So at 3, I have Jared. He had most points this week. I still think he's not as consistent. He doesn't have that. Obviously, he has that upper echelon, but I don't think he has the consistency of the upper echelon that our teams have. So I have him at 3, and then, I did it. It's you, then me. I won. I've been putting up right around 130 the last 3 or 4 weeks. And now if Justin Fields keeps up what he's doing, and like you said, I know my tight ends, I need to find one, but I did it this week. We'll see next week. I'll probably lose to Axman now, and I'll be down at 3 or something, and Jared will be at 2. I don't know, but I finally did it this week. So what do you think?
On that note, what's the stat? They said the Bears are the only team that has scored over 30 points and
In
lost
3-game stretch and
all
lost
30
3.
games.
Yeah.
So if you think they're going to use Fields like this and still lose, I don't see that happening. That's
Well,
where
Sap,
David Montgomery comes in.
Let's see what your power rankings at, Sap. Are you willing to make the change and make Built number 1, or are you going to stick with my squad?
I've got Jared at 3. I hope he falls. But and then I go Curb at 2 and Built at 1.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
And you know what? Yeah, I mean, in the end, I can't have any complaints to it. I mean, Bill, I was checking out his scores that he's had, and I think since week 4, which we've gone through week 10, so that's like 6 or 7 weeks that's 7 weeks right there. He hasn't scored below 126.
Insane.
And so that's a hell of a run. Major kudos to that. And you tip your cap. I think once it comes playoff time, I think it'll be a little closer. And I'm hoping my Mark Andrews will give myself a slight edge. But right now, Built scored at least 126 a game the last 7 weeks. You tip your cap, and he's deserving of the 1 spot.
So I guess,
it literally is. It's flip flop them either week, and who knows who's going to win.
Right. Have you stayed consistent with your lineup in these weeks of scoring that many points?
Pretty much. I mean, minus buys, but I mean, the only thing I really switch is the flex, and that's between either D-Hop or Kenneth Walker. So that's like about the only thing I switch.
So yeah,
I tried benching Kyle Pitts 1 week, and then he scored 13. So,
how late did you draft Walker?
I don't know. Late. I guess I can click on him, can't I?
Because that was probably
that'd be a 10th round pick. So he did that to ensure Rashad Penny, which he took earlier in the draft, and so he was holding on to those two, knowing Penny would probably get hurt this year.
Yeah, Penny always gets hurt.
I should take some notes.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. And like you said, the one of your big catalysts has been you got Chubb in the 3rd round, and I loved his value. I've said before, in the 3rd round, I was looking for either Chubb or Saquon, and you got Chubb, which was huge. Justin Fields has gone the fuck off, and your top receivers, I couldn't believe Diggs fell to you where he did in the 2nd round. But that's just been absolutely huge for you. So your team is solid. You only have one weakness, in my opinion, and tight end is a very common weakness amongst a lot of teams. So
I mean, unless you have, even Andrews has been hurt. Unless you have Travis Kelce, it's hit and miss right now.
Yep. It's pretty crazy out there in the streets, so we'll see what the hell happens. And I do want to make just one reminder so we don't have people coming at us and Saps asking questions. There are 2 buys. It does not go to the 2 best records. It goes to the 2 division winners. So if the season would end today, it would be Built because of his head-to-head win over Jared, and me because of my head-to-head win over Pooty. So despite Jared having better the record, he would not get the 1st round bye. So I want to make sure that's crystal clear on the podcast.
So at this moment, I'm a 5 seed.
Is that the case? Projected
because he beat Schultes.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I'm not 100% sure if this is right because it doesn't take into account the same tiebreakers. But
do I have Schultes again? I don't think I do.
So no, you don't.
No, you do not.
Huge.
So you will have that tiebreaker over him. And then, right now you're set to play. So that's one question. Who would you rather play, Pooty or Jared's squad right now in the playoffs?
That's
I can show you both their rosters if it will help you out.
I got to go Pooty's.
You'd rather play Pooty?
Yeah, because especially with Mixon, he's there. I feel like his lineup is kind of inconsistent.
Yeah, it's hit or miss. The big thing that's going to be crazy with his team in the playoff is Deshaun Watson the real deal right here, and how is Jamar Chase do coming back? But I think those 2 teams are pretty close. I think that 3-4 slot is very interesting, and we'll see how Jared's team looks now that it no longer has Zach Ertz. But him having ETN, Aaron Jones, and Jonathan Taylor, I think I would agree. I would probably want to play.
And did Jonathan Taylor find something last week?
Yep.
And Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, so he's always super dangerous. So the 2 teams are good, but at least now he's got some bulletin board material.
Oh, he's got Jalen. Never mind. He's got a lot of buys. Jared has a lot of buys. Never mind. Latavius Murray at the flex is gross because he has to do it.
Yep, and I don't hate him picking up Christian Watson. I was surprised no one made a claim for him as well, despite his 3 touchdown games. Because usually a lot of rookies, it takes them a little while to get off the ceiling and running. But Christian Watson was the real deal, so that could be another big pickup for him. But with that in mind, let's just focus on Bill or Sab. Any big games for next week's matchup that you're kind of focused on? We don't need to dive into everyone, but which one do you think looking at in particular?
Let's see.
I have Josh on the baby game. Oh, also congrats. Josh had his kid today. So
yes.
Yep. Right now he doesn't have a quarterback or wide receiver started, so we'll see if he even realizes that there's a fantasy game going on since he had a baby. But he's gonna have his team ready to play. He had a baby, so obviously I'm projected a lot right now, but we'll see.
I mean, my big matchups this week, I need Joel out.
Tua versus Tua.
I need Joel out. And then Josh, you're obviously going to crush him, but he's not a factor to me. And I'd like Pooty to beat Schultes. So those are my big ones. And Ross, just pound him.
Well, I was projected before AJ Brown had his stinker. I was projected 135 this week, which I'm pretty proud of. I haven't seen a projection that high in a while.
Has Ross updated his lineup?
What do we got here?
I hope so.
Ross is missing. I have it written down. No, it's updated. Yeah,
139. Oh, right now he has Kyler Murray. He's projected out.
Yeah.
And so if he switches that up, Trevor Lawrence, who's on a bye. So it looks like, Ross, please do not watch this and just leave that quarterback empty. But
I trade him Burrow?
Because I believe Kyler Murray, is that potentially a Monday Night Football game? And so he's not going to potentially know until late. And Pooty already has Jimmy G on the other side, so he can't pivot to the San Francisco quarterback. So
who's Arizona's backup?
Is it
McCoy? Yeah. McCoy. So one big thing for Ross is Patterson. He obviously got yelled at by his fantasy fans this past weekend. I think this is the week he's due, and he's gonna destroy the Bears. And they use him with everything. So I think he's going to put a ton of points on the board.
Yep. That's going to be very interesting. The one thing I'm hopeful for is with the Lions playing the Giants, which are a sneaky good defense in both of his running backs. So if he can limit them, the 2 running backs for a combined 1 touchdown, I think that's going to be huge in my favor. So we'll just have to wait and see. And is Mike Williams and Gerald Everett even going to play? They're both still injured on.
Well, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen both practiced today. I saw that on Twitter. Everyone's like, this is like the first time since 2007. Because they both.
So we'll see what happens. But Ross has also got the ultimate wild card with Taysom Hill, and you never know if he's going to drop 30 or 4. And so he's tend to text me that it's like, I need an upside play. I'm just throwing Taysom Hill at starting tight end, and he sees what the hell happens. And sometimes it works, sometimes it's a swing and miss. But
I mean, essentially to like JLS and Pooty and then Sap and Luddy are both big games, because if they both win and then Joel loses to Jared, not that the playoffs are set because there's still 3 weeks left and there'll be 2 back, but there'd be a lot because Schultes has a tiebreaker over Joel, and then Shane plays Joel yet. So, I mean, it's gonna come down to those. Like if they both win and Joel loses, I think you're basically have your who's going to be in which one. You don't have the seeds, obviously, but so those 2 are big.
And then one final reminder as well for the Sacco teams. The first week after the Sacco, the 2 teams with the bye and all the teams in the Sacco do not play. So it's week 16 and 17. Sap doesn't need to look that up in the rules because he's very familiar with it. So he's well aware of the first round bye for the Sacco teams. It's only the teams in seed 3 through 6 in the Yarski that play. So everyone's aware, no one's caught bitching, and I will send out reminders, but this is the FYI to the group just in the meantime. But with that in mind, boys, we got anything else before we want to leave the people? We can wrap this up about 40 minutes and call it good.
Kurt, what are you up to this weekend? Let the old podcast know what you're doing.
This weekend I will be hanging out at home, maybe going to.
Okay, what are you doing tomorrow? Jeez, come on, you know what I was going for.
Tomorrow I will be going to Lambeau Field, so I got my Titans gear, leaving at 7:30 in the morning to go to Wisconsin. So I'm riding with Axe, and we're gonna see if Derrick Henry can just drop 200 yards on the Packers, and it should be a fun one.
You caught me off guard. You're like, you were riding with the axe. And I was like,
Yeah,
I
I was
know,
like, dude, Axe just had a kid. He's leaving the hospital to go to a game. That's wild.
I know. I definitely worded that
Wouldn't put it
weirdly. I
past him.
was like, how am I going to do this? Axe has Derrick Henry. That is what we're referencing. Axe is not leaving his newborn daughter to go to a game at Lambeau. That would be legendary. So something to think about next time. And next time we'll think about having Axe on the pod on
Ooh.
days when his
Yeah,
wife
yep.
is having a baby, so we can have a pod from the delivery room.
he'll have a lot of free time this next week.
Amen to that. Amen. But with that in mind, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Have a good week 11 in fantasy football. The year's flying by already. We're coming down to our last couple pods before the playoffs, where we'll get the full playoff preview. But with that in mind, have a good night, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.
Tighten up.
Peace.
Yeah.